In this video, let's see how to create a Active Directory domain services, and we will also install a DNS on this server. This is a server I am using. It has a 16 GB of memory. It has a 16 GB of memory named server 1, and inside this I have a Hyper-V role installed, Active Directory, DNS and Hyper-V role installed. I have a two LAN card on this machine. I'll show you, and they're working as a switch for the virtual machine. These are my virtual switch. These two LAN card are working, and this is disabled. So one, I have a IP address of, sorry, in this LAN card I have an IP address of 192 series, and this LAN card is working as a switch for my virtual machines as an external switch, and another has an IP address of 10 series. So nothing to do with this machine. It's a machine where I have created. We will create a fresh one. Let's see here. I'll start this one. This is a fresh machine, and also I have created a two switch here. If you see the switch manager, one is for external switch for a 10 series and another external switch for 192 series. I'm going to connect all the virtual machines with the 192 of series. Let's see, it's not connected. This computer. Right now this is not connected with any of my switch. This is a fresh machine I have installed, and let's see, it's not connected. So let's do one thing. First of all, connect it with the switch. We'll go to the files, settings, network adapter, not connected. Let's connect it to the external switch 192 series. Okay, apply. Okay, no. As I connected this computer with the switch, you can see here it got the IP and it shows the connected IP address of 192 series. This is my range, like 192.168.88.253, and this is my DNS and DHCP server. This is an automatic IP. What you have to do, you cannot install Active Directory on an automatic IP like via DHCP IP, because all the machine have to connect with Active Directory, and every time if the IP address is getting changed on domain controller, it is hard to the client computer to reach to a domain controller. So we have to make the IP static. So what I will do, I'll give it a new IP address. Let's assign the IP address first of all. I'm disabling the IP version 6. Let's see, IP address 192.168.88. Let's suppose 10. So the last default gateway 192.168.88.1 is a gateway for the router, and the preferred DNS server should be pointing to itself, like 192.168.168.88.10. Additionally, we can give 888 as a Google DNS, as an open DNS, but for the time being I'm giving just this IP address. So remember this 192.168.88.10 as a server IP. Okay, okay. Now right now you can see here it's showing net, it's connected to internet. Let's close this, and you can see here we have to go to manage, add roles and feature. Right now we are creating our first domain controller, which means a domain controller in a forest. Let's see, it's showing me the IP address 169, that is a pipa, which means it's picking it up previous IP. Let's cancel this once again and try to open server manager again. I hope it will be updated now. So let's click on manage, add roles and feature. Earlier before 2008 R2 we used to run a DC promo, but now it's no longer available in Windows Server 2012 and 16. After 2008 it's now have a different option to configure it. Now see, we have a DC01. DC01 is a computer name for this computer. If you want to see that, I can show you. Let's open computer. This is a computer name. I have a 2 GB of RAM in this. So let's click on next. Now we have to select Active Directory Domain Services, add features, click on next, and by default next. Restart the destination server automatically if required. I'm not selecting it, but I'm just clicking on install. It will take a bit time, and by the time I'll pause a video. See, its configuration required installation succeeded on DC01. So let's close this, and now you can see a yellow mark here, and if we click on it, it says promote this server to a domain controller. Now we have to click on this to promote this server as a domain controller, and here it is, the option add a domain controller to an existing forest, which means if we have already created a previous domain controller and you want to add a new additional domain controller for like replicating username, users, and the database for domain controller with another domain controller, we have to create this add a domain controller to an existing forest. And add a new domain to an existing forest means if we have already a domain controller, and if we add a new domain controller to a new domain, not a domain controller, it's a new domain to an existing forest, it means it will make a tree or a child. But here it's a fresh one, so we will have to add a new forest. So I'm clicking on add a new forest, and we have to put the root name, like let's see, I'm giving it go green.com. Click on next. It will check the name, and here's a forest functional level and domain functional level, which means like if we have older server in our environment, like it's a first forest, and if you want to deploy some application, like if we have an exchange server which can work on earlier older version, you have to select the older for forest functional level or a domain level. But right now we have all server as a 2016, so we can choose here. If we have a backward compatibility server in our environment, you can say it like that. And you want this server to work with work in that environment, we can select that. But right now I'm just selecting Windows Server 2016 forest functional level and same domain function level. You have to put the DSRM password. So let's put the DSRM directory directory restore mode password as a password when you have to boot a computer in a directory restore mode, then it is required. This is, you can put a different password than an administrator password. It can be a different password. So let's click on next. And right now here you can see a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authority parent zone cannot be found. Right now we don't have a DNS server on this computer. That means it will install DNS automatically, because when we install Active Directory services, the DNS service is installed automatically. If it's a choice to install or not, but as a recommended that, like, you have to install a DNS with Active Directory. Right now we don't have. If we were installing configuring and installing a child domain controller, it may create a DNS delegation at that time. But this is the first server, so it will not create a delegation. So skip this and click on next. Now it will find the net BIOS name, like gogreen.com is a domain name and gogreen is a net BIOS name. Click on next. Now it's showing me the database folder and the log folder and sysvol folder. It's a path for database, it's a path for log folder and sysvol folder. You can just note it down, like you can remember like where the database folder is created. It's on a C Windows NTDS. Like where the log folder is created, C Windows NTDS. C Windows NTDS. The both the path are same, but it's a database and it's a log. And sysvol folder is created on C Windows sysvol. Click on next. Though you can even change this path, but I'm using is as a default. Click on next. Here it's showing like what all the things will be, and even here you can see view script. If you copy this script and run on a code window, like where there is no graphical interface, you can just copy this command and just put on that command. It will create the same domain name with the gogreen.com. I'm just doing it with the graphical interface and click on next. And let's see, it will do a pre-request check on this computer. If it finds something wrong, it will prompt an error, and if everything goes fine, it will say it will ask to install all the pre-request check passed successfully. Click install to begin the installation. So it's the same delegation. DNS server cannot be created because authority parent zone cannot be found, because this is the first one. So no problem with this. All pre-requests have been passed. Let's click on install. Now it's installing Active Directory services, and I have selected it as a global catalog and DNS service. So it will make this server as a global catalog and also a DNS server. What does the global catalog means? Global catalog means, like if we have a tree domains, we have a child domain, it has a partial information of users in an entire forest. Means if as we told in earlier video that child domain has a parent domain namespace, like, and if we have a tree domain, it the global catalog server also has a partial information of the tree domain users as well. They can find it on the entire network. So it's a global catalog server and a DNS server. So it's getting installed. Let's see. Once it will be installed, it will prompt me to restart the computer, and I will restart this. And let's see here, while it's going on, we can find it here, like at the left side you can see the ADDS and DNS. These two Active Directory has been installed, and right now it's configuring the DNS because DNS service is installed. That's why it's showing me in the left side pane, and right now it's configuring the DNS services. Let's pause the video for a while, and once it is completed I'll resume it. Now it's asking me to restart. Let me restart it. It is now restarted. Let's log on to this machine now. Now you can see here it's a Go Green Administrator. Now this server is a domain controller. It's a first domain controller environment. Okay, now it's up there. It's opening server manager. Let's see. Now we have a domain controller here. First we verify it with by checking computer properties. You can see here the domain is gogreen.com, full computer name dc01 gogreen.com. Okay, let's close this. Now see, Active Directory users and computer are there now. This is our domain name. Let's see the DNS because I want to show you something. This is a DNS DC01. You can see here it's a forward lookup zone DC01 and the same as a parent, like 192.168. Later on we will discuss the DNS in a depth, but here you can see the what this means, like host A record has been created for this domain controller, and the name is dc01 gogreen.com. It means the IP address will be translated to a name address. IP will be translated to a name, but here what we can see, the reverse lookup zone is empty. Example, I'll show you something, like if we will do a cmd. Okay. And one more thing I want to show you, because it's the first time it came after installing Active Directory restarted. You can see one thing, when you restart your computer, the IP goes automatically changed to preferred DNS server to localhost. It's a localhost IP. It goes to 127.0.0.1. So you have to put it once again here, like 192.168.88.10 to point DNS server itself. Okay, Now IP is done. If we will check like DNS is working completely fine or not, I'll do a NS lookup and it shows me default server unknown. So it should show me the name of a server because I installed everything, but it's still not showing. There is a reason. Like if I do 192.168.88.10, again it's showing, it's not showing. So that means my reverse lookup zone is not there. It should resolve the host name into the IP and IP into the host name. And if I put the host name like that is go green, so again let's look up, okay, go green.com, name can be resolved into a IP, but IP cannot resolve into the name. So what we have to do in a DNS, we have to create a reverse lookup zone, and that can be created by just clicking on a new zone, next, primary zone, all DNS server in this domain, default setting, next, and array network ID 192.168.88. Click on next, allow secure dynamic update only. Now the reverse lookup zone has been created, and we have to create a pointer record as well to point our server. So let's see, I will point the two record. One is DC01, okay, and also let's do one thing more, same as parent, cancel both the name, same as parent, googling.com, okay. Let's refresh it and try to launch and let's look up. Let's see, it shows me DC01 googreen.com, and let's do the command prompt once again, cmd, let me pin into taskbar, and let's look up, it's googreen.com. Let's see now our name is resolving into IP and IP is resolving into a name or not. If I type googreen.com, it's showing me the name and IP. If I type that IP 68.88.10, yeah, it's showing me. If I just host, that means our DNS is configured correctly now. So we have created Active Directory and DNS as a first domain controller in our environment. This is the first domain controller, and the next video we will create a child domain controller.